Bright staggered back, as if her words had physically struck him. You are out of your mind. Over my dead body will another man walk into this house to be with my wife? Linda scoffed from the couch, rolling her eyes. Oh, please, Bright. She's only bluffing. There's no way she actually has someone. She's just trying to scare you. Ijoma turned to Linda, her eyes narrowing. Bluffing? You think so? She took a step forward, her voice cold and deliberate. Then watch and see. Bright was visibly shaking right now, pacing the room, his hand raking through his hair. This is ridiculous, he shouted, spinning to face her. I am a man. I can't allow that. Ijoma tilted her head, a small, bitter smile on her lips. And I am a woman. Bright, if you think you can disrespect our marriage and expect me to just sit there and watch, you have got another thing coming. Bright pointed a trembling finger towards her. Ijoma, you will not bring another man into this house. She met his anger with calmness. We are in an open marriage, remember? Those were your words, Bright. If it's good for you, then it's good for me too. Bright stood frozen, his face a mask of disbelief and fury, while Linda shifted uncomfortably on the couch, the smirk wiped clean off her face. Ijoma turned and walked away, leaving Bright staring at her, his chest heaving with anger. For the first time, he realized he might have underestimated his wife. Linda shifted uncomfortably on the couch, then leaned into Bright. But why are you angry, Bright? Let her have the boyfriend. You don't even love her anymore, do you? Bright hesitated, his jaw tightening. After a long pause, he gave a small nod, but it wasn't convincing. Deep inside, his mind was a battlefield. Ijoma was still the love of his life. He couldn't even imagine her with another man, let alone being intimate. The thought clawed at him, twisting his stomach into knots. That night, he lay beside Linda, wide awake, but his mind was elsewhere. Images of Ijoma with another man tormented him. The jealousy burned hotter than anything he'd ever felt. Yet, he couldn't go to Ijoma, not with Linda around. The next morning, Bright left the house early, his mind set on one thing. Instead of heading straight to the office, he drove to Ijoma's supermarket. Ijoma was at the counter, reviewing invoices when she looked up and froze. Bright stood at the entrance, his hand shoved deep into his pocket, looking nervous and out of place. Bright, she said, her tone surprised and cautious. What are you doing here? He walked over slowly, his eyes scanning her face. Can we talk? He asked, his voice softer than she'd heard in months. She raised an eyebrow. About what? Since when do you even care to talk to me? Bright hesitated, then leaned against the counter. Why do you need a boyfriend, Ijoma? He asked, his tone almost pleading. Am I not enough for you? Ijoma blinked at him, a bitter laugh escaping her lips. Are you being serious right now, Bright? She asked, shaking her head. Was I not enough for you when you brought Linda into our home? Don't be selfish and wicked, please. Bright's jaw tightened. Ijoma, I am a man, he said, his voice rising slightly. It's different for me, but you are my wife. I can't just allow you be with another man. She took a step closer, her eyes blazing with anger. Allow me? She repeated, her voice dripping with disbelief. Allow me. Bright, you gave up that right to allow anything the day you brought another woman into my life. You wanted an open marriage, didn't you? Well, this is what it looks like. Bright's eyes darted around the store as if looking for a way to control the situation. Ijoma, he said, his voice almost breaking. You don't need to do this. You don't need a boyfriend. She stared at him. Watch me, she said firmly, her voice unwavering. Bright stood there, frozen, as Ijoma turned and walked away. She didn't look back, leaving him standing in the middle of the supermarket, his mind spinning with emotions he couldn't handle. As Bright left the store, his heart felt heavy. For the first time, he realized he might have started a fire he couldn't put out. The evening air was thick with unspoken tension as Bright pulled into the driveway with Linda beside him, chatting about her day. He opened the door and froze. There, in the living room, sat Ijoma with a man who looked like he'd walked out of a magazine, tall, well built, and effortlessly confident. The way Ijoma smiled at him, her eyes sparkling, sent a stab of jealousy straight through Bright's chest. Bright, Welcome back, Ijoma said, her tone casual but laced with subtle triumph. She turned to her guest, her hand lightly brushing his arm. This is Jesse, my boyfriend. Bryce's jaw clenched so tightly it hurts. His eyes darted to Jesse, who rose to his feet with a polite smile and extended his hand. Nice to meet you, Bright, Jesse said warmly. But Bright didn't move. He just stood there, his face like thunder. Ijoma's smile widened as she turned back to Jessie. And this, she said, gesturing with feigned politeness, is my husband Bright and his girlfriend Linda. Jessie raised an eyebrow but remained calm. Pleasure to meet you both, he said, lowering his hand after Bright refused to shake it. Without a word, Bright stomped past them and into the bedroom, slamming the door behind him. But even behind the closed doors, he could hear their laughter echoing through the house, each sound like a dagger to his pride. Inside the room, Linda was obviously scrolling through her phone. Why are you worked up? She said casually. You have got me, and now she's got someone too. Bright didn't answer. He paced the room like a caged animal, his mind racing. Hours later, when the house was quiet, he waited until Linda was fast asleep. Then, with a silent determination, he slipped out of bed and ran to Ijoma's room. The soft knock startled her. Who is there? She asked, sitting up. Bright opened the door, stepping inside. Bright, she said, surprised. What do you want? He closed the door behind him, his voice low but urgent. Ijoma, you have to drop this idea of having a boyfriend. She raised an eyebrow, folding her arms. Why? You seemed fine with the idea of an open marriage when it was your idea. I made a mistake, he admitted, his voice cracking slightly. Ijoma, please, I can't stand the thought of you with another man. I will do anything you want. Anything, just end this. She leaned back, her expression unreadable. Anything? Yes, he said, desperation leaking into his tone. She tilted her head, her eyes narrowing. Leave Linda. He froze, the room plunging into silence. After a long pause, he shook his head. I, I can't do that. Ijoma gave a bitter laugh. Then I can't leave Jessie. Now, if you don't mind, I would like to sleep. Bright stepped closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. Ijoma, you are still my wife. You are mine. She stood up, her eyes blazing. Yours? She hissed. Don't you dare come in here claiming ownership after you have disrespected our marriage, our home, and me. He flinched at her words, but didn't move. Please, he whispered. She shook her head, walking to the door and opening it wide. Good night, Bright. Don't let Linda miss you. Defeated, Bright left the room, his heart heavier than it had ever been. For the first time, he realized just how much damage his choices had done and how far Ijoma was willing to go to reclaim her dignity. The next morning, Bright sat in his office fuming. His mind replayed the events of the night before and the image of Jesse sitting in his living room with Ijoma gnawed at his inside. In frustration, he grabbed his phone and dialed the number. Hello, Mama, he said, his tone measured but laced with irritation. Ah, Bright, my son, how are you? Her cheerful voice answered. Mama, Ijoma is misbehaving, he said, diving straight into the issue. She has brought a boyfriend into our marriage and is getting out of hand. Please talk some senses into her. There was a moment of silence before her voice dropped into a stern tone. What? Ijoma did what? Don't worry, my son. I will handle her. I will talk some senses into that girl right now. She hung up and immediately dialed her daughter. Ijoma was going over some documents in the living room when her phone rang. She signed at the sight of her mother's name, but picked up anyway. Hello, Mama, she said. Hello, Ijoma. What is this nonsense I am hearing? Her mother's voice boomed through the phone. Ijoma frowned, holding the phone away from her ear slightly. Mama, what are you talking about? Don't play dumb with me. Bright told me you brought a boyfriend into his house. Into your husband's house. Have you lost your mind? Ijoma straightened up, her voice calm but firm. Mama, did Bright also tell you he brought a girlfriend into our marriage first? That he disrespected me and expected me to just sit and watch. Her mother didn't miss a beat. That is different. He is a man, Ijoma. He can do what he wants. Ijoma's eyes darkened, her grip on the phone tightening. And I am a woman, Mama. Does that mean I am not allowed to have self-respect or a life of my own? Her mother hissed, her tone rising. Self-respect? Is that what you call it? Disrespecting your husband? Are you trying to get him to throw you out? Do you know what that will mean for us? Eh? Do you want to send us back to poverty? Back to poverty? Ijoma said, her voice tinged with disbelief. Mama, is that all you care about? The money? Her mother didn't hesitate. Yes. Look at my life now. I wear nice clothes, my skin is glowing, and my friends are envious of me. Do you want me to go back to the days of struggling to feed you and your siblings? Do you want me to become a laughing stock? Ijoma's heart twisted. Mama, you are being selfish. You don't care about me or what I am going through. You only care about yourself. Her mother's voice sharpened like a blade. And what if I am? You are my child, Ijoma. You owe me everything. You owe me loyalty. Bright is your husband. He can have as many girlfriends as he wants. He is the man. That is how it has always been. Ijoma's voice dropped, cold. And what about my happiness, Mama? What about my pain? Her mother snorted. Happiness, pain. That is nonsense, Ijoma. Just do as I say and stop this foolishness before you ruin everything. Do you want to see my other side? Tears stung Ijoma's face, but she refused to let them fall. I am sorry, Mama, but I can't live my life like this. Not anymore. She ended the call before her mother could respond, tossing the phone onto the couch. Her hands trembled as the weight of the conversation settled over her. For a moment, she stood frozen, caught between her mother's harsh words and the fire burning in her chest. Then, with a deep breath, she whispered to herself, if no one will stand up for me, then I will stand up for myself. Bryce's jealousy reached a boiling point. He couldn't stand the sight of Ijoma glowing with happiness, her smile radiant every time she walked out of the door to meet Jessie. The thought of another man enjoying her laughter, her touch, her presence, it consumed him. It was eating him alive. Bright sat in his office, staring blankly at his phone. A cruel plan formed in his mind. If she wants to act like she doesn't need me, let's see how far she will go without everything I give her. That evening, Ijoma sat in the living room scrolling through her phone. Bright walked in, his face turned. He dropped a bunch of keys on the table with a loud clink. What's that? She asked, raising a brow. Those are the supermarket keys, he said flatly. I am taking it back. You don't need it anymore. Ijoma blinked. What? Why would you do that? That's my business. Bright smacked. Correction. My business. I paid for it, didn't I? You have made it clear you don't want to be my wife anymore. So why should I keep funding you? Ijoma stood, fire blazing in her eyes. So this is your new plan? To starve me into submission? Bright stepped closer, his voice cold. If the shoe fits, let's see how your boyfriend provides for you. The next morning, the frustration escalated. Ijoma was about to step out when she noticed Bright standing by the car, dangling the keys in his hand. You won't be needing this either, he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Bright, what is this? She demanded. It's called tough love, he replied, pocketing the keys. You've got a boyfriend now. Don't you? Let him drive you around. Or, better still, buy you a new car. Wow, you really are this petty. It's pathetic. Petty? Bright snapped, his voice rising. I'm just giving you what you wanted, Ijoma. You wanted independence. Here it is. The final straw came when her mother called. Ijoma had barely settled in her room when her phone buzzed. She sighed heavily at the sight of her mother's name, knowing exactly what was coming. Hello, Mama. Her mother's voice came like a whip through the phone. Ijoma, are you trying to kill me? Mama, please don't start, she said, pinching the bridge of her nose. Don't start? Eh? Bright has stopped sending us money, and your siblings are crying. My skin is getting dull again. Are you trying to send me to my grave? Mama, you think I don't know he's doing this because you keep supporting him? Ijoma shot back. He's pushing me for not crawling back to him. Her mother shouted, and why won't you crawl back to him? Eh? Who do you think you are? You are just one small girl who doesn't know her place. Do you want to destroy our lives? If you don't end whatever nonsense you are doing with that boyfriend of yours, don't ever call me again. I will disown you. Tears welled in Ijoma's eyes as she clutched the phone. Mama, why do you always choose him over me? Why can't you stand up for your own daughter? Because he's the man, Ijoma. Her mother backed. Men are always in control. Now go and beg him before it's too late. Ijoma's hand trembled. as she ended the call, her heart pounding in her chest. She sat down, tears streaming silently, but her resolve only hardened. Later that evening, she met Jesse at a quiet restaurant. "I can't believe he's doing all this," she said, her voice shaky. Jesse leaned forward, his hand covering hers. "Listen to me, Ijoma. Don't let him break you. You are stronger than this. I will support you no matter what." She looked at him, her lips trembling. "I don't know how much I can take." "You don't have to do it alone," Jesse said softly. "I am here, always." Bryce's living room turned into a battlefield of emotion. Ijoma stood firm, her suitcase in her hand, her eyes blazing with fire. Bright leaned back on the couch, arms crossed, a smirk playing on his lips while Linda sips her drink smugly, enjoying the chaos. "Where are you going with those bags, Ijoma?" Bright's voice dripped with mockery. She straightened her shoulders. "I am leaving. You and your mistress can have the house to yourselves." Bright laughed bitterly. "Leave? You can't survive without me. Who will take care of you? Where will you even go? Your mother?" He chuckled. "We both know she will throw you out the moment she hears of this." Ijoma's jaw tightened. "Don't worry about me, Bright. I will be fine." Bright smiled. "Where are you even planning to go, hmm?" She paused. "I am going to my boyfriend's place." The words were like a thunderclap in the room. Bright shot up from the couch, his eyes wild with jealousy. "You can't do that. You are a married woman, for God's sake." "Am I?" She fired back. "Because you haven't treated me once like one in years. You wanted an open marriage, Bright. Now you will get one." Bright's voice trembled with rage. "Ijoma, stop this madness. Stay here. Why are you doing this to me?" She let out a bitter laugh. "Why? Look at yourself, Bright. You brought another woman into our home, stripped me of everything, and now you expect me to sit quietly and take it." She pulled off her wedding ring and tossed it onto the table. "Goodbye, Bright." With that, she stormed out of the house, leaving Bright standing there, frozen in shock. Outside, she had no idea where to go. She brought out her phone and dialed Jesse's number. "Jesse," she said, her voice cracking. "I left Bright's home." "Ijoma, where are you right now?" "I'm outside. Just stay right there. I am coming to get you." Minutes later, Jesse's car pulled up. He jumped out and rushed to her, his eyes filled with concern. "Are you okay?" She shook her head, tears rolling down her cheeks. "I have left him, Jesse. I just couldn't take it anymore." He gently wrapped his hand around her, letting her cry on his shoulder. "You did the right thing, Ijoma. I am proud of you. Come with me. You can stay with me until you figure things out." She nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you." As they drove, Ijoma stared out through the window, the city lights blurring in her teary eyes. The car slowed down as they turned into a long driveway. Her eyes widened when they stopped in front of a mansion. "Jesse," she began, her voice trembling, "where are we?" He smiled softly. "My house." She blinked, looking at the mansion, and then back at him. "This is your house. This this mansion? How did you afford this?" Jessie stepped out of the car and walked around to open her door. "Ijoma, there's something I haven't told you." Her heart pounded as she stepped out. "What is it, Jessie?" He looked at her, his eyes meeting hers. "I didn't tell you everything about me because you have been going through so much, but I think you deserve to know. I am the CEO of J&J." Her jaw dropped, her mind racing. "Wait, J&J, J&J, the famous J&J? The oil and gas giant?" He nodded, his smile warm. "Yes, that's me." Her knees felt weak. "Why didn't you tell me all this while?" "I didn't want to scare you away," he said softly. "I wanted you to know me for who I am, not what I have." She looked at him, her emotions a whirlwind. "Jesse, I don't know what to say." He squeezed her hand gently. "You don't have to say anything right now. Just know that you are safe here, Ijoma, and I'll do everything in my power to make sure you never cry again." Ijoma stood frozen, her mind spinning with Jesse's revelation. But if I'm not mistaken," she stammered, "J&J is a major investor in Bryce's company. How come he didn't recognize you?" Jesse leaned back with a calm, confident smile. "You are absolutely right, Ijoma. I am one of the largest investors in his company, but I have been out of the country for years. My personal assistant has been handling all client interactions on my behalf. Bright has never met me in person." Her eyes widened as the realization sank in. You? He nodded. Yes, me. And I am back. I'm fully in charge now. That means I will be having more direct dealings with your husband from now on. The weight of his words hit her like a tidal wave. She felt a mix of disbelief and unease. Jessie, this is too much. Why didn't you tell me before? I didn't think it was the right time, he said softly, stepping closer to her. You have been dealing with so much, Ijoma. The last thing I wanted was to complicate things further. But now, I want you to know that you are not alone, and I will do everything I can to protect you. Her breath caught in her throat, the sincerity in his eyes, leaving her speechless. Jessie's expression softened. You must be tired. Come on, go take a shower, relax, and I'll have dinner ready for you. He led her upstairs to a guest room that was unlike anything she'd ever seen before. The room was an absolute dream. Jessie, she whispered, turning to him. This, this is too much. He smiled gently. Nothing is too much for you, Ijoma. Make yourself comfortable. This is your space for as long as you need it. After freshening up, she came downstairs and the smell of delicious food greeted her. The dining table was set. Jessie stood by, pouring her a glass of wine. Sit, he said warmly, pulling out a chair for her. You need to eat and regain your strength. She hesitated for a moment, overwhelmed by his kindness, but she eventually sat down. They ate together, and for the first time in a long while, she felt a sense of peace. Later, as they chatted in the cozy glow of the dining room, Jessie leaned back and observed her. You know, he said, his tone casual, but his eyes serious. Bright doesn't deserve someone like you, and he knows it. That's why he's lashing out. He's afraid of losing you. Ijoma let out a bitter laugh. He's done everything to push me away. I don't think he cares anymore. Jessie reached across the table, gently taking her hand. He cares more than you think, but it's his loss now, Ijoma. You are stronger than you realize, and you deserve so much better. His words settled over her like a comforting blanket, and for the first time in years, she felt seen, truly seen. Later, she retired to bed, lying in the luxurious sheets, her mind racing. Bryce's jealous outburst, Linda's smugness, her mother's betrayal, and now Jessie's unexpected kindness and revelation. It was all too much to process. As she drifted off to sleep, she couldn't help but wonder what the next chapter of her life would hold. She was stepping into the unknown, but for the first time, she felt like she had the strength to face it head on. At Jessie's house, Ijoma was beginning to rediscover herself. Jessie had been nothing short of amazing. He never pressured her, never brought up his feelings, but his actions spoke louder than words. He always made sure she had everything she needed, listened to her when she wanted to talk, and gave her space when she didn't. One evening, as they sat in the garden, Jessie poured her a glass of wine and handed it to her. Ijoma, he began softly, have you thought about what you want to do next? She hesitated for a moment, then she nodded. Yes, I have decided I am going to go through with the divorce. Jessie tried to hide the smile, but couldn't completely suppress the joy in his eyes. Are you sure? It's a big step. Yes, she said firmly. He doesn't know my worth. He's still with Linda. There's nothing left for me there. Jessie reached out and gently touched her hand. I will support you every step of the way. I will arrange for my lawyer to handle everything. When the divorce papers landed on Bryce's desk, he felt like the ground had been pulled out from under him. He stared at the papers, his vision blurring. No, he muttered. No, no, no. His voice grew louder with each word. He shoved the papers off his desk, scattering them across the floor. Ijoma, you can't do this to me. He tried calling her several times, but it went unanswered. Bright paced his office. The divorce papers crumbled in his trembling hand. His mind raced. How could she do this to me? After everything, he picked up his phone and dialed Ijoma's number. It went straight to the voicemail. Ijoma, pick up your phone, let's talk. I made mistake, but we can fix this. Please. He slammed the phone down in frustration when the call disconnected. Desperate, he called her mother. Madam, he backed into the phone. You said you would bring Ijoma back to me. What's happening? Her mother sighed heavily. Bright, I don't know what's wrong with this stubborn child. She hung up on me when I tried to talk sense into her. Well, try harder, he snapped. Do you know what's at stake here? I will double your allowance if you get her back. Her mother, happy at the mention of more money. Don't worry, Bright. I will find a way to get through to her. Just stay calm. But calm was the last thing Bright felt. He threw the papers onto his desk and ran his hand through his hair. I can't lose her, he thought. I just can't. The real blow came during the investors' meeting. Bright walked into the boardroom, trying to maintain his composure. He needed this meeting to go well. Losing any investor now would be catastrophic. As he took his seat, the door opened and Jesse walked in, looking sharp in a tailored suit. Bright froze, his confusion quickly turning to anger. What is this? What are you doing here? He barked. Jesse didn't respond, simply offering a polite smile as he took a seat at the head of the table. Bright shot to his feet, glaring. Who let this joker in here? Security! Before anyone could move, one of the investors, with an air of authority, tapped Bright's arm. Mr. Bright, he said, his tone sharp, are you out of your mind? Do you know who this is? Bright blinked, his anger replaced by confusion. What do you mean? He's just a bloody nobody. The room felt silent and the tension was palpable. The investor frowned deeply. That nobody is Jesse Williams, the CEO of J&J Holdings, one of the largest investors in your company. Bryce's jaw dropped. What? Jesse leaned back in his chair, his calm demeanor unshaken. It's true, I am the nobody. As you so put it. Bright felt the blood drain from his face. I didn't know. I am so sorry, Mr. Williams. I didn't mean to. Jesse held up a hand, silencing him. Let's get back to the agenda, shall we? The meeting continued, but Bright barely heard a word. His mind raced with questions and panic. How could this be happening? How had he not known who Jesse was? Every time Bright tried to interject or salvage his reputation, Jesse countered with a sharp, calculated response that left him looking foolish. By the end of the meeting, the investors were clearly impressed with Jesse's leadership, while Bright felt smaller than ever. When the room cleared out, Bright stayed behind, his fists clenched at his sides. What are you trying to do, Jesse? He demanded, his voice shaking with rage. Jesse turned to him, his expression calm, but his words cutting. I am doing what any responsible investor would do, ensuring that my investment is in good hands. Bright glared at him, his chest heavy. Then you think you can just come in and take everything that's mine? Jesse smiled faintly. I am just getting started, Bright. With that, Jesse turned and walked out, leaving Bright standing alone in the empty boardroom in anger. Bright was not ready to let Ijoma go, so he threatened to tell the court during their divorce hearing that she was cheating on him and was currently living with her lover, Jesse. He also threatened to ruin Jesse's reputation publicly by accusing him of having an affair with a married woman. This twist of events pushed Jesse to make a drastic decision. He decided he could no longer continue doing business with Bright's company. Jesse didn't want anything that would bring Ijoma close to Bright anymore, as he planned to make her his alone. Consequently, he sent his lawyer to Bright's company to announce that he was pulling out. This development meant trouble for the company, as Jesse was the major shareholder and the primary source of funding. The company was on the brink of collapse. Bright's father, the original founder of the company, who had stepped aside for his son to take over, heard about the situation and immediately confronted Bright. What is going on, Bright? His father demanded. Bright hesitated before finally spilling the details. His father shook his head in disbelief. I can't believe you could be this foolish. I trusted you to run this company, but I was wrong. How could you let your personal life ruin everything I have built? Why on earth would you suggest an open marriage to your wife? Bright tried to defend himself, but his father raised a hand to silence him. No excuses. Do whatever it takes. I must not lose the partnership with J&J. My life's hard work cannot go down because of your reckless behavior. Bryce's father set up a meeting with Jesse to try and salvage the situation. During the meeting, he begged Jesse not to pull out of the partnership. Jesse was firm. I am sorry, but I cannot continue this partnership under these circumstances. After further discussion, Jesse finally offered a condition. There's only one way I will reconsider. Bright must grant Ijoma a divorce without contest and must stay away from her permanently. Bright, seated at the table, was stunned. His eyes widened in disbelief. No, I am not divorcing my wife. His father turned to him sharply. Oh, yes, you will. You have caused enough damage already. Looking back at Jesse, the elderly man said, Consider it done. Anything else? Jesse shook his head. That's all for now. If Bright complies, the partnership will remain intact. After Jesse left, Bright paced around the office fuming. You can't force me to sign that document, Dad. Bright protested. She's my wife, and I will fight for her. His father, an imposing man with years of authority in his eyes, slammed his hand on the table. Fight for her? You are the reason she's gone in the first place. Do you think this is about your broken marriage? It's about saving this company, my legacy. You have done enough damage, Bright. You will sign those papers and you will stay far away from her. Bright clenched his fist. Dad, you don't understand. She's the only woman I have ever truly loved. Love? His father scoffed. You threw away love the moment you brought that mistress into your home. If you had focused on your marriage instead of playing games, we wouldn't be in this mess. Bright signed the divorce paper with a heavy heart, watching his entire world crumble around him. He had lost not only his wife, but also his dignity and respect of his father. He realized this too late, that his actions had caused irreparable damage. Meanwhile, Ijoma was finally free. Jesse wasted no time taking her on a surprise getaway to celebrate her freedom. One evening, he knelt down with a sparkling diamond ring. Ijoma, you have been through so much, but through it all, you have shown strength and grace. I know we have had a whirlwind of emotions and events, but I have never been more certain about anything in my life. Please, make me the happiest man alive. Will you marry me? Tears filled Ijoma's eyes. This was the love and respect she had always dreamed of. Yes, Jesse, yes, I will. Their engagement became the talk of the town, and Jesse's love for Ijoma was evident to all. He lavished her with care, support, and affection. Soon after, they got married in an extravagant but intimate ceremony. Bright, on the other hand, sank deeper into regret. His life spiraled out of control. He discovered Linda cheating on him with another man, and in a fit of rage, he kicked her out of his life. His father's trust in him has eroded completely, and the family company was now tightly controlled by his father to prevent further mismanagement. The final blow came when Jesse, now Ijoma's husband, transferred a significant portion of his shares in Bright's company to Ijoma, making her the major shareholder. For the first time, Bright had to answer to Ijoma. In the boardroom, she walked into the room confidently, her aura commanding respect. Bright froze as she sat at the table of the head. Good morning, everyone, Ijoma began, her tone sharp and professional. As the new major shareholder, I will be overseeing all key decisions. My priority is ensuring this company strives, not for personal gain, but because people's livelihood depend on it. Let's not waste time. Bright, I will need you to submit a full report on the company's financials by tomorrow morning. Fail to deliver and we'll discuss your position here. Bright could barely hold her gaze. Ijoma, please, he whispered after the meeting ended, trying to approach her. She stopped him with a cold look. Save it, Bright. I am not here for personal apologies or second chances. You had your chance and you destroyed it. Now you will have to live with your choices. This is business, nothing more. Jessie stood by her side as she walked out of the boardroom. Months later, Ijoma and Jessie welcomed a beautiful baby girl into their family. Ijoma had finally found the happiness she deserved, proving that love, respect, and self-worth could overcome any storm. As Bright watched their lives unfold from the sidelines, he realized the bitter truth. He had gambled away with the most precious treasure of his life and lost. If you have enjoyed this story, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Stay tuned for more drama, twists, and life lessons. Thank you for watching.